All right, picture this. You've got a student in a classroom just slogging away, typing hundreds of lines of code from some textbook. They're totally exhausted. You can hear the clock ticking, right? Now, flash forward, it's the same student, but now they type one single sentence into an AI tool, and boom, an entire application is generated instantly. This isn't science fiction. This is the new reality. Everything developers spent years mastering, it can now be done in a single moment. But here's the real danger. It's not just that the job is changing. It's what happens when we start creating these massive, complex systems that literally no one on the team truly understands. Look, this is a fundamental shift in how we need to think about programming. So, before we get any deeper, do me a favor. Share this with any student, developer, or anyone you know who's learning to code. Seriously. And of course, hit subscribe on the Lalit official channel. You're going to want to stay ahead of these changes. Okay, so let's get right into it. We are walking straight into what I'm calling the AI coding trap. The old way of learning to code, the path that so many of us took, it's not just outdated, it's being dangerously disrupted, and it's creating a massive, massive blind spot for the next generation of engineers. For decades, learning to code was all about mastering syntax, right? You'd memorize patterns, write tons of repetitive boilerplate code, and let's be honest, it wasn't just busy work. That repetition built a deep, foundational understanding. But in our new reality, AI can spin up an entire system in seconds. All that time we spent mastering those little details, it just doesn't provide the same value anymore. The game has totally changed. And hey, don't think this is some far-off, distant future we're talking about. We're talking soon. Forecasts are predicting that by the end of 2025, that's just around the corner, AI could be responsible for producing up to 90% of all new code. That's not a gradual evolution, people. That is a full-blown revolution. So, this has given rise to this really interesting new trend called vibe coding. It's exactly what it sounds like. Developers aren't meticulously writing code line by line anymore. Instead, they just describe the vibe, they give the AI a high-level goal, and let it figure out the details. And yeah, it feels like a superpower, but it's also creating what researchers call an illusion of competence. You feel like you know what you're doing because you can generate code, but you don't actually understand it. And this right here, this gets into the dangerous psychology of it all. Research is showing that when code is generated by an AI, developers tend to just trust it more. They feel less responsible for it. And what's the result? They don't review it with the same critical eye they would if they'd written it themselves. And that right there is a huge gap in quality control just waiting to cause problems. This leads us to this really sneaky but critical problem called architectural drift. See, AI is fantastic at generating a piece of code that works perfectly in isolation, but it has zero context, zero understanding of your system's overall architecture. So it makes these tiny, seemingly harmless little changes that over time start to break security rules and establish design patterns. It's like the whole system is slowly rotting from the inside out. And this chart is a perfect illustration of the kind of hidden junk that sneaks past a quick review. I mean, you've got your usual suspects, right? Security flaws, logic errors, but then you get this wild stuff like hallucinated dependencies. The AI is literally just making up software packages that don't exist. Imagine the wild goose chase that sends a developer on. And of course, it'll happily hardcode secret API keys or completely ignore important compliance rules. It's a total mess. And if you want the hard numbers, well, they're pretty shocking. One analysis found that AI-generated code introduced over 300% more privilege escalation paths. That's a huge critical security vulnerability, and 153% more fundamental design flaws. The AI is a great worker bee, but it has absolutely zero architectural judgment. So what's the endgame here? What happens when these systems actually get deployed into the real world? Well, they break. The moment they're hit with real users, real security threats, or just unexpected situations, these fragile systems just crumble. And that developer who relied on vibe coding, they're left completely helpless because they have no idea how the system is actually built. Welcome to spiraling technical debt and what engineers are now calling development hell. So now you see the danger. Speed without understanding is basically a ticking time bomb. It's a recipe for disaster. If you get it, if you understand this risk, do me a favor, hit that like button and drop a comment below with vibe coding. Let's see who's really paying attention to where this is all going. Okay, that was a lot of doom and gloom. So what's the solution? It is absolutely not about abandoning AI. No way. It's about evolving our role entirely. We have to make the shift from being simple coders to becoming true architects. Think about it this way. The old role was the implementer. Your job was to focus on writing lines of code, mastering syntax. The new role? You are the orchestrator. Your primary job isn't writing the code anymore. It's designing the system, coordinating the AI agents, and most importantly, critically evaluating the quality of what they produce. And to do that, you have to become a system thinker. The question in your head can no longer be, how do I write this function? The real questions, the valuable questions, become, how should this entire system be structured? How do all the pieces interact? And how do we enforce security and make sure this thing is reliable when it's being used by millions of people? A really powerful tool for this is a methodology called domain-driven design, or DDD. Instead of just obsessing over the technology, this approach puts the actual business problem right at the center of everything. It forces developers and business experts to create a shared language, which cuts down on misunderstandings and makes sure the system you build isn't just functional, but actually valuable. So what does this actually look like day to day? It's a new human-led workflow. Here's how it breaks down. First, the human, that's you, designs the system architecture. You build the blueprint. Second, you guide the AI to handle the implementation, the grunt work. Third, and this is the most crucial part, you interrogate and validate everything the AI spits out. You have to be skeptical. And finally, you are the final checkpoint for making sure the whole system is secure and reliable. The best way to think about this is to treat the AI like a super enthusiastic but really inexperienced junior engineer. It can produce a ton of work really fast, but it absolutely needs senior oversight. You have to check for security holes, validate its performance, make sure the code is actually readable and maintainable, and confirm that it integrates properly with everything else. You're the adult in the room. So this all brings us to the core takeaway, the brand new value equation for what it means to be a developer in the age of AI. And here it is, plain and simple. Syntax is becoming a commodity. The ability to write lines of code is being automated away. The real, durable value, the skill that's actually going to differentiate you and keep you relevant, is architectural thinking, period. I mean, just look at this table. It breaks it down perfectly. Your knowledge of syntax, it went from being high value to low value because it's being automated. But now look at system architecture and code auditing. They've gone from being maybe moderately valued to absolutely critical. This is your new job description. So look, the future isn't about being the fastest coder. It's not about who can type the most lines. The future belongs to the architects, the orchestrators, the system thinkers. It belongs to the developers who can take a high-level business goal and translate that intent into a real, reliable, scalable, and secure system. Make no mistake, the software industry is transitioning from a syntax-driven era to an architecture-driven era. To stay ahead of this massive curve, you know what to do. Share this explainer with your network. Like the video to help spread this really important message. And of course, make sure you are subscribed to the Lalit official channel for more insights on how all this is evolving. Thanks for watching.